We are pleased to present the International Hydrodiplomacy, Building and Strengthening Regional Institutions for Water Conflict Prevention, pre-conference study commissioned and led by the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung with support from the Stimson Center. Effectiveness, challenges, and potential of transboundary water governance institutions in the Aral Sea Basin of Central Asia, by Dinara Ziganshina and Jennifer Sering. Overview of the key water issues in Central Asia. Most of Central Asia, CA, is part of the Aral Sea Basin. Almost the whole territories of Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, as well as parts of the Kyrgyz Republic, Afghanistan, and Kazakhstan. In the arid climate of the basin, water is the key driver for food and energy security, biodiversity, employment, and poverty reduction. Irrigated agriculture contributes about 20% to the regional GDP and employs about 40% of the population, and hydropower accounts for 21% of the average regional energy consumption. The extensive agricultural development along the two main rivers, Amudarya and Sirdarya, whose water flow is highly regulated, has led to the desiccation of the Aral Sea with its widespread environmental, social, and economic consequences. While Central Asia also comprises other transboundary basins, including the Ili, Irtish, Tarim, Chu-Talas basins, we will focus on the Aral Sea Basin in this paper. The water usage patterns established during Soviet central planning got increasingly contested since the independence of the former Soviet republics. The disintegration of the previous water management system and different national development priorities led to disagreements among states about seasonal water allocation, reinforced by projects to build new dams. The Kambarata Dam project in Kyrgyzstan, and even more the Rogan hydropower project in Tajikistan, were long opposed by downstream countries alarmed at the prospect of upstream countries gaining greater control over water flow and trading energy with new partners. The water challenges in the region are amplified by the impacts of climate change, natural hazards, population growth, environmental degradation, and economic development. While the basin states have signed numerous water agreements since 1992 and established an institutional framework under the International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea, IFAS, these so far have proven unable to provide sustained and mutually acceptable solutions to the issues at hand. The key challenge is to find a stable and reliable mechanism for seasonal allocation of water, which concerns both the quantity of water, the volume, and the seasonal operation of the reservoirs, the time. This needs reconciliation of different sectoral interests, water, energy, food, environment nexus, and requires economic cost or benefit-sharing mechanisms to make arrangements viable and sustainable. While disagreements on water issues affect regional stability, it is mainly the general political relations and state of cross-border cooperation in Central Asia that affect water cooperation. In the centralized and hierarchical decision-making systems of the countries, regional cooperation depends largely on political will from the highest level, with a limited role for regional water organizations or senior-level experts. Transboundary water governance institutions in the Aral Sea Basin. This section describes the water governance institutions for the Aral Sea Basin. While Afghanistan is part of this basin, due to historical reasons, only the riparian countries formerly part of the Soviet Union are members of its joint institutions: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Mandate, structure, and decision-making. The Interstate Commission for Water Coordination in Central Asia, ICWC or Commission, made up of heads of national water authorities of 5 countries, was established in 1992. The Commission elaborates and approves water use limits for each country, reservoirs operation regimes, and water releases for river deltas and the Aral Sea for a hydrological year, separately for growing and non-growing seasons. It also determines key directions of regional water policy. Its decisions are mandatory for all water consumers and users and are taken on quarterly meetings by consensus. In 1993, the ICWC became one out of 2 commissions operating under the newly established International Fund for Saving the Aral Sea, IFAS, which was set up to coordinate the implementation of programs and projects and is headed by the president of the country that holds the rotating chairmanship. Key achievements. The regular meetings of ICWC and ECIFAS, as well as the daily operations of ICWC's executive bodies, have enabled riparian countries in CA to build relative stability in transboundary water management and adapt the water allocation system set up in the Soviet time to new conditions. As such, the most important achievement of CA transboundary water governance institutions lies in ensuring that peaceful interactions between riparian countries prevail, even under the extremely difficult hydrological, political, and economic conditions that occurred over the last 29 years. ICWC also facilitated the introduction of contemporary approaches to water management, such as integrated water resources management, developing a regional information portal, introducing decision support systems and automation of headwater facilities, elaborating new agreements, and conducting and coordinating research and joint projects. Under the umbrella of IFAS, 4 regional comprehensive Aral Sea Basin programs, ASBPs, have been developed and implemented to address common social and environmental problems in the region and improve the management of transboundary water resources. The ASBPs are also a major coordinating framework among the CA states and international actors. Crucially, the institutions under IFAS are also the only Central Asia regional framework where all 5 countries are members, even if the participation of Kyrgyzstan is frozen at the moment. All these achievements are an encouraging sign for a more prominent role that water can play in regional integration processes. Key shortcomings. The most difficult language ICWC faces is to accommodate irrigation, hydropower, and ecosystem requirements, even though these sectors are not fully represented in its decision-making structure. In a similar vein, ICWC lacks full jurisdiction over the rivers and only has limited control over national implementation. Non-compliance with ICWC decisions is not sanctioned, and economic incentives for compliance are underdeveloped. The complex water-related challenges, amplified by climate change, require the ICWC to coordinate its activities more efficiently with various sectors as well as the public. Poor quality of flow forecasts, inadequate water accounting, and insufficient information exchange are the main technical barriers for ICWC in matters of water management planning and monitoring. The countries finance the operation of the ICWC bodies located in their respective territories, with Uzbekistan where most executive bodies are located, bearing the main costs. The funds, allocated on a regular basis, are not sufficient to cover all expenditures. Due to their unbalanced funding and staffing, these bodies are sometimes not fully seen as regional bodies by the other riparian countries. Similarly, not all riparian states perceive ECIFAS as an impartial regional body, but as dominated by the respective chairmanship. Consequently, there is widespread mutual distrust in organizations engaged in the provision and consolidation of information at both national and regional level. Additionally, the 1999 Agreement on the Status of the IFAS and its organizations assigns the status of an international organization to IFAS, but also to the organizations of the IFAS individually, for example, ECIFAS, SIC, ICWC, etc., without specifying their hierarchy and relations within the IFAS system. This creates legal challenges, reflected by the fact that regulatory documents of these institutions are not reciprocally linked,
show several inconsistencies and that there is no joint planning. As a result, there is no corporate identity of IFAS as a joint water governance structure, but all bodies act rather independently from each other. In contrast to other bodies, ECIFAS does not have a permanent seat, but is located in the respective country that holds the rotating chairmanship. Thus, the executive committee has been moving every couple of years to another CA capital, placing a considerable burden on the host governments to allocate adequate resources for the work of a temporary secretariat. Also, for donors, it means that assistance for capacity development of staff, provision of office equipment, and other similar facilities lack institutional sustainability. Finally, new dam constructions on the tributaries of Amudarya and Sirdarya, in particular the Rogan hydropower project on the Vaksh River, a major tributary of the Amudarya, led to increased tensions between the upstream and downstream countries. The regional water governance institutions were not able to play a leading role in addressing this issue and balance the interests. Only upon request from the government of Tajikistan, the World Bank facilitated independent assessment studies and regional consultations. The tensions eased after a change of government in Uzbekistan in 2016, with the new president re-establishing a constructive dialogue with Tajikistan. Institutional reforms. All Aral Sea Basin programs, ASBPs, starting from 1993, emphasize the need for institutional reforms. While the EU and other international actors have been involved in strengthening transboundary water governance institutions over the years, the riparian countries played the dominant role in transboundary institution building by initiating the establishment of regional organizations and bearing most operational costs. At the 2009 IFAS Summit, CA presidents called for further improving the organizational and legal framework of IFAS. ECIFAS, aided by UNECE and GIZ, brought together regional and international experts to develop recommendations for ameliorating the institutional framework for cooperation. The recommendations included strengthening the existing mechanism through better coordination between interstate organizations, clarification of responsibilities, and introduction of integrated water resources management principles, as well as fairer geographical distribution of seats of regional bodies. As an alternative, it was advised to transform IFAS into a regional organization dealing with sustainable development, environmental protection, and integrated water resources management, and set up separate river basin commissions for the Amudarya and Sirdarya. These recommendations received a mixed response and remained subject to discussion for several years. However, these reform efforts faded away with the end of the Kazakh IFAS chairmanship. As a consequence of its frustrations with the lack of reform process and perceived neglect of its interests, Kyrgyzstan officially froze its participation in IFAS in May 2016. Only under the Turkmen chairmanship, another IFAS summit took place in August 2018, and the discussion about reforms was reopened. Kyrgyzstan, attending the summit as a guest, announced to consider restoring its participation. Also, the proposal to set up a regional water and energy consortium has been taken up again at this summit. EU involvement. The combined assistance of EU member states and the European Commission makes the EU one of the major donors in the region. Regional cooperation and the rational use of natural resources have been among the priorities of EU engagement since the TACIS program of the mid-1990s. Based on its 2007 strategy for a new partnership with CA, the EU, together with the CA states, has established in 2009 an EU-CA platform on environment and water with regular high-level conferences as well as working group meetings of senior officials. The European Commission is also contributing to the multi-donor trust of the Central Asia Energy and Water Development Program, CAEWDP, implemented by the World Bank. At national level, under the EU Water Initiative and jointly facilitated by the OECD and UNECE, national policy dialogues, NPDs, have been implemented in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan to regularly meet and advance water policy reforms. The EU, like other development partners, has been playing an important role in supporting the efforts of regional water institutions such as the IFAS and the ICWC. However, due to lack of effectiveness and transparency of regional institutions, donors have significantly decreased their support in recent years, or shifted it from one institution to another. On the one hand, this acknowledges the deficiencies and lack of truly regional ownership for reforms. On the other hand, it might risk further weakening regional structures. At CUS MDPD, we design and implement multi-stakeholder dialogues, focusing on the nexus of democracy and governance, peace and security, and climate and energy. Join our LinkedIn community, tag us in your tweets, and add us on Facebook. Thank you for tuning in on SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. Visit our website for our latest publications.